David always believed the woods held secrets that cities could never reveal. So when his friends suggested a hike through the Appalachian forests, he didn't hesitate. The group was 5 strong. David, his college friend Lisa, the adventurous couple Mike and Sarah, and the quiet, reserved Ethan. They carried tents, food, and a sense of excitement that made the first day feel like the start of something unforgettable. The forest seemed welcoming at first. The mountain air was crisp, the trails alive with birdsong, and sunlight filtered through the trees like a blessing. But on the second day, something changed. The trail markings thinned out, the map felt less reliable, and each turn only deepened their confusion. By late afternoon, the realization sank in. They were lost. Phones were useless. There was no signal. The air grew cooler, the trees seemed closer, and as the sun sank, a nervous silence settled over the group. Then, through the gathering dark, they saw it. A faint glow between the trees. Firelight. They followed it, stumbling through underbrush until they emerged into a small clearing. There stood a cabin, rough-hewn but sturdy, with smoke curling from the chimney. David knocked. The door creaked open to reveal an elderly man. His face was a map of wrinkles, his eyes sharp but calm. "Lost, are you?" he asked, his voice low and gravelly. "Happens more than you'd think. Hunters come through here all the time. I keep this place for them. Night's no time to wander. Come in, warm yourselves." The group hesitated, but stepped inside. The cabin was warm and smelled faintly of pine and something herbal. A small fire burned in the hearth, and the man moved with practiced ease, pouring a steaming drink into tin cups. "My own blend," he said with a faint smile. "Calms the nerves, helps you sleep. You'll need to rest." They were too tired to argue. They drank. Sleep came quickly, too quickly. When they woke the next morning, the cabin felt colder, emptier. Ethan's bedroll was unzipped and abandoned. His pack was still there, untouched. "Maybe he went out early," the old man suggested, stirring something on the stove. "Some folks like to see the woods at dawn." But no amount of searching found Ethan. They called his name until their voices were hoarse. The forest answered with nothing but wind. By evening, exhausted and shaken, they tried to find a way back to civilization. But the woods seemed endless, and when night fell, they stumbled once again onto the same clearing, the same faint glow of the cabin. The man greeted them as if nothing was strange. "Long forest? Easy to get turned around? Best stay the night." Again, the tea. Again, the warmth. The next morning, Sarah was gone. Panic turned to dread. Theories were whispered. Wild animals, getting lost alone, something worse. Mike insisted they leave immediately. They marched for hours, cutting through brambles, ignoring paths. But as dusk descended, the same light pierced the trees, the same cabin. The old man was waiting. He never seemed surprised. His calm was unsettling now. That night, when they returned to the cabin, something in Mike seemed to break. The old man offered them tea again, but Mike barely touched his cup. He was restless, pacing, muttering Sarah's name under his breath. When David and Lisa begged him to wait until morning to search, he snapped. "She's out there, and I'm not sitting here while she's alone." Before they could stop him, Mike shoved the cup aside and stormed out into the dark, the beam of his flashlight slicing through the trees. His footsteps faded quickly, swallowed by the forest. David and Lisa tried to follow, but a wave of weakness hit them, like every limb was turning to stone. The tea sat warm in their hands, half drunk. They didn't remember lying down, only that the cabin tilted and blurred until there was nothing. By morning, only the two of them remained. Mike was gone. David and Lisa tried to find Mike. They combed the forest, calling his name, but there was no sign of him. Wandering through the forest, they again failed to notice that it had grown dark. After a while, they saw the same lights among the trees, the same clearing, the same cabin, and heard the old man's quiet voice. "You again. Come in." When the man handed them the tea, David hesitated. Something about the way the aroma seemed heavier, almost sweetly bitter, unsettled him. He remembered how quickly sleep had claimed them each night, how the missing had never stirred. A thought wormed into his mind. What if the tea isn't just tea? He raised the cup, pretended to sip, but let the liquid spill silently into the corner of the hearth. Lisa drank, too weary to care. The cabin grew silent. The fire crackled. David lay awake, feigning sleep, his heart pounding. Hours passed until he heard it, the soft scrape of boots on the wooden floor. Through half-closed eyes, he saw the old man moving quietly, stooping beside Lisa. His lips moved close to her ear, whispering something low and rhythmic. Lisa stirred. Her eyes opened, blank and unfocused, as though she were dreaming. Without hesitation, she stood and walked toward the door, her steps slow but sure, like a sleepwalker following an invisible thread. David waited until the door creaked shut before he moved. He rose silently, but the old man was already turning toward him, a shadow framed in the doorway. "You shouldn't follow," the man said softly. But David didn't listen. He lunged, shoving past the old figure. The man stumbled, muttering something sharp and strange, but David was already outside. Lisa was ahead, her pace steady, heading into the black wall of trees. David ran, caught up, grabbed her arm. "Lisa, wake up," he hissed, shaking her. But her face was slack, eyes wide and unseeing. She fought his grip with surprising strength, pulling toward the forest as though something called her name. Then, footsteps behind him, heavy, deliberate. David turned. The old man stood only a few feet away, something glinting in his hand. The last thing David felt was the sharp sting at the side of his head, the world tilting into darkness. When he woke, it was morning. The clearing was empty. The cabin was gone as if it had never existed. David wandered for hours, his thoughts fractured, until he stumbled onto a highway. A passing truck took him to town. What he learned chilled him further. They had been missing for over 2 weeks. Search parties found no trace of his friends, nor any cabin in the woods. Authorities listened to his story politely, but dismissed it. Stress, they said. Trauma. Years passed. David moved to another city, married, had children. The forest became a memory, distant but never silent. At night, sometimes, he dreamed of firelight and whispered voices. When his kids were teenagers, he decided to take them camping. Nothing ambitious, just a weekend, just to teach them the basics. The first day was perfect, but on the second, the woods seemed to shift. The trail blurred, and as the evening closed in, David saw something flicker through the trees. A faint glow, smoke curling into the dusk. He stepped into the clearing and froze. There it was, the same cabin, the same crooked chimney, the same faint smell of smoke and pine. And as the door creaked open, David thought he heard a voice. Warm, low, and terribly familiar. If this story unsettled you, leave a like and let the shadows know. Subscribe for more tales you shouldn't hear after dark. And if you've seen something you can't explain, tell us in the comments. We're always listening.